Welcome to the Cardinals Locker Room Show, presented by Santan Ford & Gilbert, home of the Tim Hovick Satisfaction Guarantee.
Come on, man! Come on!
Let's get back to the stadium for analysis and exclusive interviews from the Cardinals locker room. Here's Dave Pasch, A.Q. Shipley, and Paul Calvisi.
Final score, Tampa Bay 20, Arizona 17, as the Cardinals fall to 3-9 on the season. The Cardinals had their chances, but come up short once again, another one-score defeat. Chad Ryland missed a field goal, although Fox, when they were showing the replay, looked like it may have been a poor hold. He also made a 52-yard field goal at halftime, and the Cardinals were down 10-0 and made it 10-3. Tampa Bay went up 20-10, but Jacoby Brissett with a gorgeous run and throw to Bam Knight to make it a 3-point game. The Cardinals had an opportunity. They had the ball back from their 9-yard line with about 1:50 to go, one timeout, and they ended up turning it over on downs and lose this game despite Brissett throwing for over 300 yards again. 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception in this game. Now, AQ, you played in a lot of close games. You coached here for the Buccaneers for a year. I know when you go back and look at the film, it's easy to say that it's 1 or 2 plays, but it does feel like, even though that is kind of trite, it is true in this situation because it was the little mistakes by the Cardinals in this game, and there weren't many of them, but there were enough to cost them the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think if you go back, and obviously it never comes down to these 2 or 3 plays, right? There's so many more things that when you watch the tape and you look back on this game that could have been different, right? But whenever you break it down to the minute amount of plays of, let's say, 3, let's look at the missed field goal, let's look at the Dortch play on the final 2-minute drive, and then let's look at the 4th and 1 call. I think those are probably the 3 biggest plays, especially the missed field goal that turned into a touchdown by Tampa, then the 4th down stop, which turned into 3 points. I think those were 2 of the biggest turning points in this game.
The Cardinals outgained Tampa by more than 100 yards in this game, but fall 20-17. Let's bring in Paul. We want to let people know here as we bring Paul in that we have some major technical difficulties that are beyond our control. It is all based on the setup here at Raymond James Stadium, and the kind folks here with the Buccaneers were trying to get it fixed. It was on their end. They cannot get it fixed, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to hear from players or Jonathan Gannon. So an abbreviated postgame show today. But, Paul, why don't you jump in here, give us your takeaways as you saw it down on the field.
Yeah, it's that same word again, details, right? When you are so close on the scoreboard, you look at how close you are to making that one play, if indeed you are a play or 2 away. And that has been the case. 7th loss by 4 points or fewer this year, which leads the NFL. So whether it's the hold on the missed field goal, and yes, Chad Ryland leaving the field and talking with special teams coordinator Jeff Rodgers, then going and having a conversation with punter and holder Matt Hawk. So they definitely had a long conversation. Whether it's mid-4th quarter and the Cardinals had 4th and 1 at the 39 and that quick toss to Bam Knight where they're attacking the edge, and is that the Vita Vea factor right there instead of being able to run through the tackles. That obviously was a known coming into this game, and that was part of the game plan that when necessary they might run away from big number 50. But beyond that, it's only running 24 plays in the first half. It's not just the very end of the game. It was the coming out, being 6-6 passing, and then all of a sudden a pair of 3-and-outs by Jacoby Brissett. It's the run efficiency, which you had quite a bit with Bam Knight, and other times, and when you got to have it moments, it just wasn't there. And it was a byproduct a lot of times of some free hitters. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that Todd Bowles defense, they lead the NFL in unblocked pressures and free hitters, free rushers, and the Cardinals knew that. They do things to try and get guys into the face immediately of Jacoby Brissett, and that obviously was a factor. At the same time, Jacoby Brissett on the sideline on the big touchdown drive that culminated with Trey McBride and the touchdown that brought the Cardinals within striking distance. You know, it was Brissett. It was so instrumental in getting guys fired up and then orchestrating that drive. So, once again, it's just those little things, and that can make it especially frustrating. And when trying to assess and analyze, it's never just one thing, guys, and that seems to be a theme, and I think that's what's vexing at times. It's a moving target for the coaching staff to try and assess.
Paul, obviously this team came out and played well early on. They fought. There was good energy. How did you see that overall energy and juice from your vantage point down there?
And you always wonder at this point in the season, you're out of the playoff race. It's getting towards December, and energy was really good. I mean, we wondered, Bucky Irving leads the NFL and missed tackle sports, just that percentage of breaking tackles. And I thought, although he was doing what he does, it wasn't from a lack of effort or intensity. Guys were fired up, even minus a Walter Nolan. Cody Simon, I think, is still learning on the job as a fourth-round rookie, and there's a few times where, there's gap integrity, not just number 50, but other guys, and that opened up some run lanes. But as AQ has explained, the Tampa offensive line is one of the better ones in the NFC, and for the most part of that, the Cardinals, especially Josh Sweat, getting home and getting to Baker Mayfield, and he's never going to throw in the white towel. He's going to extend plays, and although we heard him a couple of times, he had the big 20-plus yard run in the first half. I thought the Cardinals made a good halftime adjustment. Jonathan Gannon cited that coming off the field. We cannot let Baker's legs hurt us. And in the second half, they pretty much remedied that for the most part.
You mentioned Sweat. He had 2 sacks. On the other side, AQ, it did appear that Jacoby Brissett was pressured a lot, had to step up several times and either throw the ball or try to run the ball. He got hit a bunch in this game. I'm sure when you go back and watch film, you'll have a better sense. But in the moment, how did you think this offensive line played today? They were able to run the ball a decent amount, and again, they outgained Tampa Bay overall in this game by over 100 yards.
Yeah, I thought they ran it pretty well. It was nice to see that. I thought they ran some different run concepts than we've been seeing all year. We've been seeing a lot of the pull schemes with guard tackle counter or guard, F, which is a glorified tight end counter. And this week they started to do a little bit more zone, a little bit more toss scheme, try and get the perimeter, which I think probably has something to do with Vita Vea being up in the inside as well. But I also think in terms of pass pro, I don't think the interior of the Bucs D-line got home very much. I know Vita got 1 sack, but that was when he was lined up on Beachum at right tackle. And then a lot of the pressure, I think, comes on play action when you get the add-on guys. And when I say add-on, if you're a secondary or a linebacker responsible for a tight end, and that tight end stays in block and you're not originally supposed to blitz, you can now add on to that pressure. So I think that's what we were seeing a lot today. I think they started to get a beater tendency. Every time Josh Fryer was in the game as an extra tight end, he's not going out on a route. So now we can add on a pressure guy, a secondary pressure, a linebacker pressure, and a lot of that pressure came off the edge. And I think whenever they do that, if you're going to have Josh Fryer come in, there has to be something other than just play action pass off.
Cardinals Locker Room Show presented by Tim Hovick, Santan, Ford, and Gilbert. Right on the price, right on the corner of the Santan 202 freeway in Val Vista. Paul, I assume at this point you don't have any injury updates, but just late in the game, we did see Bocelli come back in on a kickoff return. Marvin Harrison Jr. came in the game, then went out of the game. Didn't see him on the field there at the end of the game, so I assume no update on him. And you said it was a heel injury, right, for Marvin Harrison?
The info they gave us towards the end of the game, heel, return questionable. Now, even at that point, he was still on the field. He came off and went out again, but at the very end of the game, that final possession, he was not out there. So how much did that dictate the Buccaneers' coverages when 18 wasn't out there? And he obviously had a really nice game, and he was really effective through the first 3 quarters. I know at the very end there, after the turnover on downs, which decided the game with a few seconds to go, Trey McBride staring at his shoe tops, and for Trey McBride not to get a target on that final possession, obviously that's a key guy that the Buccaneers are trying to take away. But in those money moments, you want to get it to your money players, and I know McBride in that moment's probably thinking, if there was a thought bubble there, man, I would have loved to have had a chance to impact the end of the game.
All right, guys, let's turn the page to next week. You've got 5 games left. You are now guaranteed a losing season. You're 3-9, even if you win 5 in a row. And look, we take 5 in a row. That would mean great things for the future. And just based on what we've seen, I don't think there's any question the Cardinals are going to continue to play very hard, and they still believe in Jonathan Gannon. They still very much believe in Jacoby Brissett. So I think you'll see the Cardinals play hard next week, but they're also going to be playing as talented a team as there is in football, and a Ram team that lost today for just the 3rd time falling to the Panthers.
Yeah, a team that's reeling, no doubt about it. I mean, this is a team that everybody's been singing their praises for as many weeks, and I, a week ago, literally said I think that's the best team in football, and then all of a sudden, the Carolina Panthers come out and they cause Matt Stafford to throw, last I looked, it was 2 interceptions. Is that what it finished with? I think 2. But also, makes a decision on 3rd and 10 late in the game where Derek Brown's about to get a sack and he fumbles the ball away, which basically that's how the game ended, and then Carolina basically closes the game out. So this is a team that has looked unbeatable, and all of a sudden they come out and have their worst performance of the year basically this week, and so they're going to want to do everything they can to right the ship next week, and just so happens that the Cardinals are the team that they're coming to face.
Yeah, you mentioned the interceptions, and one of those was returned for a touchdown. And the Panthers won that game 31-28. Bryce Young with 3 touchdown passes. And so we'll see Stafford and that excellent defense. Boy, the Rams have done such a good job building that defense through the draft. Now, they gave up 24 points today. Again, 7 were scored by the defense, but for the defense for Carolina. So just 24 points by the offense, but and when you look at that Ram defense, what's the biggest challenge that the Cardinals will face there with an offensive line that, has struggled at times this year?
Yeah, it's blocking the edge guys. I think when you look at Young and Jared Verse, they're absolute monsters on the edge. They got Fisk on the inside, who's turned out to be a heck of a football player. And then Landman, obviously. Landman's having a heck of a year. I mean, this is a guy that's really come on. He's a captain of their team. He's got well over, 100 tackles at this point. And their secondary, they've really built up in the last couple of years. So they've done a great job building up that defense. Their O-line is interesting because there's really not a ton of guys off that group where you would say, oh, they're great offensive linemen, but they play well as a group. They got 3 really good tight ends, as good a receiver as there is in football, in Devontae Adams. And then Kyron Williams is a great back. So, Matthew Stafford is playing the best of any quarterback in the league right now. So this is obviously a great team. When you say it like that and you say all the stuff that they have on paper, probably is the best team. They just didn't play their best today.
Dave, I think the Rams 2024, and I just think of quarterback on both sides. They'll get to your quarterback, as AQ just explained, and they'll do it with a 4-man rush. They have talented guys in the trenches along the front, and they have the ability to drop 7. But then trying to get to Matthew Stafford, whether it's the O-line or not, and they've done a decent job of rebuilding that O-line, and they had that one down year after they lost Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle, and they've since pivoted, and they've solidified that. But we all know Stafford and his ability to read and react, get rid of the ball. You can try and get to him, but he'll get rid of the ball before you do, and I think that is what really stood out a year ago and playing the Rams twice, just his mastery of their offense, his ability to read your defense. Now, what the Cardinals are doing with 7 along the line of scrimmage, I think has made it very difficult the last couple of weeks. You could see Baker Mayfield struggling at times. Who's coming, who's dropping, and then with Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson interchanging back and forth, and man, it would have been nice Jalen Thompson had both hands on that one deep shot, could have come away with that interception. But there's no doubt, since the bye week, the Cardinals have been top 5 in blitz rate. So based on what we've seen, at least on film and in these games, Nick Rawls and Jonathan Gannon made a decided decision, right, during the bye, saying, we're going to dial it up a little bit more, we're going to get a little more aggressive, and it's yielded some pretty good results and confused a couple of quarterbacks the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Paul. And I think the one thing that's of note, too, of this Rams team, they do not want Matthew Stafford to get sacked. So what they do at the tops of the league of everybody in the NFL right now is go under center, and they play action almost as much as anybody in the NFL. And they do that more often than not on 1st and 2nd down. Now, 3rd down, they'll take their chances, right? And he might have an opportunity to get sacked, but they do as good a job as anybody at running it and play actioning on 1st and 2nd down.
So that's next week, but still a lot to talk about with regard to this week. And a 20-17 loss for the Cardinals against the Buccaneers. And you'll hear from Craig Grialou and Frank Sanders next with Cardinal Talk. Our executive producer is Jim Almohandro, associate producer Cody Fincher, engineers Brian Dubose and Chris Mueller, technical director Ali Narini and Ryan Sikora, in-studio coordinator Matt Lazarus, and the vice president of content creative and brand is Surf Melendez. Again, our apologies for the technical difficulties. We tried. The Buccaneers admitted that it was on their end. They did the best they could to rectify the situation, but to no avail. So you will not hear live from Jonathan Gannon today on the postgame. For AQ Shipley, Paul Calvisi, Dave Pasch saying so long from Tampa. We'll talk to you next week from State Farm Stadium, where the Cardinals host the Rams on the Cardinals Radio Network.